Hey, what's up, Steelers Nation? I'm Tyler Feldman, proudly born and raised in Pittsburgh and currently repping the black and gold here in Austin, Texas. Hey, the Steelers played like my favorite butter today in Ireland. Kerry gold.
And I'm Ben Bobick here, dripping down here in Chattanooga. Why could it never be easy? Just God forbid.
And I'm Wayne Gandy, coming from Atlanta, Georgia, former Pittsburgh offensive lineman. Tyler and Ben, I'm coming for you because a couple of days ago, y'all thought we was going to get blown out, and we didn't. We showed up in Ireland. Let's go on the Pittsburgh Steelers Squad Show.
Wave those terrible towels. It's the Steelers Squad. Everything Pittsburgh Steelers every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Steel City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the steel curtain to the next generation, the Steelers Squad Show starts now.
Yes, it does. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Again, I'm your host, Tyler Feldman, and joining me on this live post-game reaction show is former Steelers offensive lineman Wayne Gandy, bringing the energy to start, and lifetime Steelers fan Ben Bobick. And yes, before you ask, everyone watching, I am repping an Oregon Ducks baseball jersey. Got some friends here in Austin. I said, there's no way Penn State's losing last night, and that's what they did. So I lost the bet, and so it's black and gold at least. So at least the color scheme is proper. The Steelers taking down the Vikings 24-21 in Dublin, Ireland, Croke Park. It was an awesome scene there this morning, today. And guys, the Steelers, this looks like the most complete game we've seen from this team so far this season. Wayne, I'll start with you. Your initial thoughts on what we saw today across the pond.
Effort. I saw effort and energy on both sides of the ball. I saw guys straining their muscles to get the job done, and it was exciting to watch. Gained well. We ran over 100 yards. I'm excited. Do you know we ran over 100 yards this week for the first time this season as a team? Gained well, close. I think he was right at 98, 99 yards.
99. 2 touchdowns. First multi-touchdown game for our guy.
And I just love the energy and effort, and it's kind of like, forget the bad plays. We're just going to function on the good plays, and everybody took their turn in this game. Every position took their turn in affecting the game and the outcome. So just excited to see the guys kind of play in the Steeler fashion. Forget the scoreboard, just the way the Steelers play football.
7 sacks. Kobe Coleman also saying they gained well. And Kobe, I see what you did there. Wayne, I see what you did there. You guys are smooth. DK Metcalf, 100-plus receiving yards in the first half. He came into this game having only accumulated 135 receiving yards. So things were clicking. The defense made some big-time plays. And Ben and Wayne, I know you talked about that on Wednesday. Ben, you're grinning. I know you were sad after that Penn State loss last night as well. But, hey, this Steelers win, pretty complete. They did make it close late. But, boy, this was, to Wayne's word, a great effort from the black and yellow.
Yeah, needed this one big time. Makes me, especially the quick turnaround after last night's heartbreaker at home. So it's nice. But I mean, yeah, they played. I thought they played 55 minutes of great football. That last 5 minutes, obviously, a little dicey. And I'm not, to be quite frank, I'm not so sure. You harp on the team too much there. I think it might have been some coaching decisions that made it a little bit weird there at the end. At least the decisions, because even in other than the big blown coverage here that led to the long score, I mean, I thought they were still playing well, if you will. But yeah, now that was awesome to see. Complimentary football at its finest. You see, I think would have worked out perfectly there in the second half when you get the TJ Watt interception and then the Steelers go and turn it into a touchdown and really start to pull ahead. That's what you love to see. And I thought this was awesome. Probably the most complete game they played all season. They were playing better third down defense, I think was key as well. I think the Vikings were 4 of 14 on third down. That was a big factor last week, I remember. And so it was good to see them get off the field on third down. You love to see the pressures and you love to see them running the ball well. That was the Kenneth Gainwell I think we all were hoping and expecting to see in Pittsburgh. That's the one that complemented Saquon Barkley well last year in Philadelphia. And it was good to see him not only have a good game, but also step up with Jaylen Warren being a late scratch.
Yeah, Jalen Warren with a knee issue. He was a late scratch, and hey, Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, take advantage of the opportunity, my guy. Made it 7-3 with that short touchdown run in the first quarter. Then DK Metcalf with that 80-yard passing catch from Aaron Rodgers made it 14-3, and then it was Gainwell again, 4 yards out, made it 21-6. Boswell, he did have a field goal block. Pat Freiermuth got blown by on that play, and maybe we'll talk about that, but it was 24-6, and then the Vikings get 2 touchdowns to make it close late, but the defense came up big again and again, 7 sacks, couple interceptions. I mean, this was fun to watch. This was the most fun I've had watching the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. Wayne, why do you think that was? Who came to play today that said, you know what, enough is enough?
It seemed like the defensive line, to me, really set the tone on the defense. It was holding in the gaps. It was playing with effort. Benton getting off block, being disruptive inside, which allowed the linebackers, I feel, that freedom to get downhill, shut the run game down, held the Vikings to 70 yards rushing as a team. And I just love the energy, the go to the next play mentality that both sides of the ball seem to have. Nobody seemed to have that if somebody made a mistake or a penalty or some negative play. It seemed like everybody was engaged and totally in the moment of playing this game. And that's not always the case when you talk about pro football. A lot of times you take each and every play personally, you're still dwelling on it. But I didn't see any of that from the players out on the field today. It was like, give up a bad play, let's go do something to make up for that. And then Kenneth Gainwell, can't mention enough, late stretch with Warren, rushed the ball for about 20 times, had about 6-7 receptions out of the backfield, just really raising his hand to make it a running back issue. Who do you play? Or at least making sure that we know next week or 2 weeks from now when we play Cleveland, hey, put me in the game, coach. Don't just keep me over here on the sideline. And I just love the effort and energy that he was giving each and every time he touched the ball.
Same. I mean, the Steelers came in averaging about 3 yards a carry. They averaged 4.5 yards a carry here today, and Kenneth Gainwell was a big reason why. Hey, also the offensive line, and Wayne, we'll get to Wayne's World later in this show and allow you to kind of break down your thoughts on that offensive line, but I look at the defense. Patrick Queen, 1 sack. Deshaun Elliott, a sack, an interception. Nick Herbig, 1.5 sacks. Keanu Benton, 1.5 sacks. TJ Watt, a sack and an interception. This is the defense that is going to win you ball games, and that's what gets me fired up, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was good to see. I think I think 2 guys that stood out to me on defense, that just because they had a rough go the first 3 weeks. Keanu Benton, to see him have a big game like he did, have a sack and a half. I know he was he was one of those guys that was getting bullied around and pushed around a good bit through the first 3 weeks. Good to see him push back. And then Peyton Wilson, man. I mean, he was getting downhill. You think about that play he made there at the end where I think I saw on Next Gen Stats, he ran a top speed of like 22 miles an hour when he was getting going. It was the fastest a linebacker has run since 2017. I mean, that was a big-time play in that moment because it shaved about a minute off the clock, and obviously it ended up being beneficial for the Steelers. But I thought he played great, stopping the run too. I know there was a play in the game where he came down. It was a screen pass, and he came downhill, fought through a block, and got a TFL, or at least stop him at the line of scrimmage for a minimal gain. Those are plays like that that he needs to make, as a starter on this team, and also using his speed to his advantage. So I thought Benton and Peyton Wilson were 2 that stood out to me. And obviously amongst a lot of people that had great games, like you mentioned, Tej and obviously Deshaun Elliott. But just because Keanu and Peyton Wilson were having a rough go to start the season, it's good to see them flip the script a bit today.
Week 4, it seems like things are starting to make sense for some of these guys. Wayne, to your point, you said, well, they didn't play in preseason, so those first few games, you kind of warm up to everything that's going on. I do want to talk about in the first quarter, and it didn't really end up impacting the game, but that Chuck Clark forced fumble, Ramsey picks it up, takes it 60 yards for the touchdown. Joe Davis, Greg Olson on the broadcast were, Joe Davis, great voice, great broadcaster, but to get him that excited early on, that was special, okay? Like, sometimes he saves those big calls for the bigger moments, which is great, but he got excited there. And then it came back because the dude's foot was out of bounds. I wasn't actually, I'm not embarrassed to say this. I wasn't really aware of that rule. And I said, that's silly. That's a silly rule to me because he didn't even have possession of the ball. But just because he touched it with half his body out of bounds, the Vikings kept the football. Can someone explain to me how that makes sense or the ruling there? Because people are asking about it in the chat too right now.
That was one. Yeah, that was it. Was weird too. I think it gave him a fresh set of downs as well. I think that was like a first or second down run, and then when he fumbled, they got it 1st and 10. I mean, it was to my understanding too, which was even I mean, at least this is what they kind of said on the broadcast, and I don't know if it's true or not, but being that he was the first one to touch it and he was out of bounds is the reason that it was blown dead. If a Steeler had touched it before he did, where he was out of bounds, I think the ball still would have bbeen live. I don't know if that's true or not, but they sort of kind of said that on the broadcast, like, oh, he was the first to touch it and he was out of bounds, so that's why it went back to Minnesota. But I do think it was a silly rule, especially with that ball being bouncing around like that. You almost like want to you don't think about it in the moment, but you want to think, why don't players do that more often? Where it's just bouncing around here, the opposing team, just go drop your legs out of bounds and touch it, boom, play's dead.
Maybe this will sound ignorant, but what a dumb rule. What a dumb rule. That's exactly what I said when that happened. If he had possession, okay?
Right.
If there was some sort of who in their right mind came up with that one?
It's similar to basketball. If the ball gets tipped and the guy's out of bounds when he touches the ball, my team gets to possess the ball. Now, Tyler, you have to realize if roles were reversed, you'd have been embracing that. You'd have got
No, I would have still said. I would have still said, "What a stupid rule."
That's like the old fumble out of the back of the end zone, and it goes to the other team. Sort of. I know a lot of people don't like that rule either.
Anyway, I needed to talk about that just a little bit because I needed to get that just out of my system, guys. The Steelers have a bye week 2 coming up. I mean, this was critical. They're 3-1, and it seems like. Side note. That Skoranek play where he forced that personal foul penalty after the whistle, and then they panned up Tomlin like grinning that was actually my favorite play of the game because that's just classic. Like, you know what? You did your job there. Good job. I think people are knocking on Tomlin here in the comments section, and it's just crazy to me that even after a game where things are clicking, Steelers fans, a small percentage and sometimes larger percentage, are holding on to this idea that they're 3-1. I just make it make sense to me.
Yeah, they want pretty. Everybody wants it to be pretty. I mean, that's what I said too at the beginning. I said, why can't it just be, why can't it just be easy? And it seemed a little bit extra, a little bit more this game because I mean they were up 24-6, and it's like, come on, man, like why can't we just bleed the clock out there at the end and go home? But I think that's what it comes down to. But yeah, they're always, everybody's a little too picky, and it comes down to you just look at it. It's tough to win football games in the National Football League. You go overseas in Ireland and you get a win. You go into your bye. You run to that plane and hop up and enjoy a couple of days off and hit the reset button.
And I look at it, as I said the other night, keep your expectations below how we're going to get there. Mm-hmm. And this is the team that you have. You have a team that this is how, if though they end up with 10, 11 wins, it's going to be these almost like grassroots. You see the personnel. They don't have the sexy, pretty, we should have won this game in a certain way kind of personnel. And on top of that, when you look at dealing with the different injuries across these first 4 games going into the bye, you haven't really, the defense is taking a step up. Joey Porter, Deshaun Elliott came back, seemed to add a little calmness to the secondary. Porter Jr. is still out. And then offensively, we are discovering what is our offense? What is the identity? Ben was talking about it on Wednesday about maybe we will have to use the short passing game for a while to carry the line and the rush game, and they kind of use both of them early with the short passing game in the first half. Then the run game started clicking. So we're figuring that side of the ball out, but it's a tough business, and the Steelers are going to be equal, rarely better than most of the teams they're going to play. They're going to be right a little bit today with the injuries of the Vikings, they were equal. And they went out, won the game, and a couple of questionable, like Ben also alluded to, coaching calls there. I definitely would have went for it on that 4th and 1 because you punted the ball in the end zone and they still got the ball out just about the same place where you could have gotten it. But Coach Tomlin was trusting the defense, and that's what he gets paid for.
Darius Slay was one of those Steelers injured in this game today. He did come back. Certainly something to monitor. James Pierre did come in, though. I mean, it just seems like there's guys that we're going to be talking about that are on that bench ready to go give the Steelers their all. So, again, injuries are something to watch as this season progresses. Also, you said, Wayne, that the Steelers don't have any sexy players on this team. I'd be careful saying that around Aaron Rodgers. I bet you he'd argue with you there. I think he would definitely say not so fast. Hey, we've got a lot of show left here. Wayne's World coming up next. On this show, we will also continue to break down this 24-21 victory. This is the Steelers Squad Show right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But first, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions. We make a lot of decisions. We make so many decisions. But on PrizePicks, they can, as I try to remove this comment. How do I do this? There we go. All right, let's read this ad read appropriately for our sponsors here. But on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. So don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown. And hey, you're in the game. I love how quick it is. You make your lineup in less than a minute. My favorite part, they just added stacks. So if I want to ride with the player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. It's also fun to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with one click. The new injury reboot feature is nice as well. If your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, back here on the Steelers Squad Show. Wayne Gandy, Ben Bobick, I'm Tyler Feldman. A Sunday morning worth getting up for. The Steelers holding off the Minnesota Vikings 24-21 to improve to 3-1 on the season. Let's get into Wayne's world. Wayne, Kenneth Gainwell came in for an injured Jaylen Warren, 99 rushing yards. As a team, the Steelers finally looked like they had something going. Gainwell, first ever multi-touchdown game in the NFL. So you check there. The offensive line, what did we think? I feel like we have some positive responses here maybe on a Sunday in late September.
I saw some growth today in being able to run block. And it seemed, as we spoke about, a little simpler. These are our runs. I don't know if that's because Jaylen Warren is out. So these are the runs they call when Gainwell or Johnson is in there. But I saw the offensive line actually, especially in that third quarter, looked like they started having some fun. Arthur Smith going with the big extra offensive lineman in the game. We talked about why not when you're the 31st rush team, just start trying different personnel groups and get people in there. He has running, pulling and kicking people out, at least getting in the way. You have to try something. And I love that just versatility of those guys being okay, going in there, getting installed to try to get the run game going. And then on the other side of the ball, when I always talk about being used the word complementary football, the defensive line. Well, when the Vikings come, they got 2 or 3 injuries, they got 2 or 3 starters already out, then that's when your defensive front has to take over. It's your time now. You got to set the way when you get the advantage. Every week there's some position that's maybe missing a person. And that group has to be able to attack that weakness. And that's what I saw with the defensive front. They were playing on the Viking side of the ball, the constant pressure. When the linebackers were coming around on the stunts, you can see them tying up 2 or 3 guys, and Herbick and those guys, Wilson, quickly can get to the quarterback. Just love the O and D line and the energy. But you're right, Tyler, with the rush game. For the first time this year, I saw a step forward, and I love the tight ends getting mixed in there. But that adjustment of getting another lineman on the field paid big dividends.
Plus, Broderick Jones had that huge fumble recovery. He got a little lucky when Aaron Rodgers showed off the wheels. Ball popped out, bounced off the grass, and right into the arms of Broderick Jones. But, hey, those are moments, the way in which Aaron Rodgers reacted, that was a moment where it was like, you know what, that's special, because it's been a tough go, I think, for Broderick Jones here to start the season. No one's arguing that, but those little plays where you get that excitement out of your teammates, I think that goes a long way. Ben, the trenches, this was a step in it wasn't perfect, okay? Everyone's like freaking out still in the comments section. I'm trying to ignore it. I'm trying to ignore it as we try to talk about a team that's 3-1, but steps in the right direction. You love hearing that from Wayne Gandy, and he knows what it takes to take steps in the right direction when it comes to an offensive line.
Absolutely. I mean, it just in the run game. Wayne wanted it. He wanted a 100-yard rushing day, and then that's what they gave us. And so I think absolutely. I mean, there's still some inconsistencies, and at some point there's some inconsistencies at some bad times, right? They start the game, first play of the game is a sack, which may end up being their good luck charm, because you remember the Jets game was first play was a sack. They would go on the win. So maybe just let the line through.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't even go into that direction. That's not a good luck charm to give up a sack. Let's not get into that rotation here.
Yeah, man. Right. But there was another one too where they gave up a sack when they were driving again to really take the lead there. It was still 14-3 in the first half, and they let up a sack there on second down, put them behind the sticks, and then it led to that blocked field goal where you really could have took a 21-3 lead, and then it ended up being a 14-6 halftime lead because they blocked the field goal, which led to a Minnesota field goal. But yeah, you know what? And what was really cool I thought today as well was they were bringing in a 6th lineman a few times. Spencer Anderson was coming in on some of those big packages, and I think it helped them push some guys around. I mean, you think about Minnesota, they're nothing to walk over. That's a tough defense. We talked a lot this week about Brian Flores and what he means to that Vikings organization and that team. And so that was no joke. That was a good defense they played today. So it was good to see them. But I like what Wayne said. I saw it too. I mean, they were getting first downs on runs. And Mason McCormick's, they're dancing. They're getting in there. They're getting in a rhythm, man. They were smashing some heads. And I actually have to say this, which is just have to admit my faults, and then also ask Wayne a question. I hated the toss play. But man, was that working today. And Wayne, I'll ask you, is that something that maybe gets this team going, at least in the offensive line, maybe the little toss, getting those guys out in space and just saying, hey, run downhill and hit somebody? Does that kind of help them get going? Because it seemed like that was the case today, because they were using that mini toss to a lot of success.
Yeah, you got a very athletic offensive line, both the guards and tackles. They can play out in space. We talked about missing the preseason. They didn't run it a lot. I like to run all plays in the preseason to get used to it. But those guys are good, blocking out on the edge. Good job today with the penalties, things like that. When they were running that play, nobody was holding. And then you have, as they mixed in Caleb Johnson a little bit, yeah, that kind of dynamic speed, you got to start providing that. But being able to run the ball inside opens up that play, and vice versa. If you're a toss team, it opens up that inside zone play for them as well. So once you figure out where the weakness is on a defensive front, you're able to attack it. And you got to be able to have both of those plays, because sometimes it's real stopped. As we talked about, the first Jets line, the Vikings, the Seattle Hawks line, all those are stout inside. We should have had that play then, but it's 3-1. We're sitting here. I'm excited.
Yeah, come on.
I hope I'm not being too enthusiastic. I know people get online, but for what I see on paper, to play a quarter of the season and be 3-1, going into a bye, coming out with Cleveland, not looking past Cleveland, but you feel equal, that you can take care of that job. And we'll talk about that in the couple of days before. But just exciting that the Steelers, it's not even so much that we won. I saw a Pittsburgh Steelers team today. That's the excitement. It's not necessarily, yes, we won, but it was the first time in 4 games I saw the Pittsburgh Steelers play football.
And now the goal is for this to be consistently improving and building off this game. On one hand, you like the bye week because you allow this team that's pretty banged up already to rest up. On the other hand, it's like, well, I'd like to see this keep going. It was awesome to see Croke Park, like 70-30 Steelers Nation. Not surprised, but the Rooney family, the connections to that country and Dublin in particular, and seeing that game was really special. And just to see the way that this team performed. Again, a lot of criticism. Let's talk about it because everyone's talking about this. The 4th down at the end, not to go for it. Let's just quickly talk about it, give your thoughts, and move on. The Steelers won the game, but I understand we can focus in on this one situation. Wayne, what is your take on that decision?
Well, being a lineman, being in that situation, I'm like the guys were on that goal line when I think it was 4th and 3. I want to stay on the field. I want to be part of the solution on why we win this game. And we only needed a foot. And I'm from that old school. If we can't get a foot, we shouldn't win the game anyway. So I'm definitely for going for it. Coach Tomlin feeling how his defense was playing. And if you're not going to go for it, we do need to angle punt. We can't punt the ball into the end zone. We got to do something where they start off on the 5-10 yard line. You can't just let them come right back on the field with good field position. But definitely, in my mind, I would have been out there running over the coach. Let's go for it. Run behind me. Find some kind of formation. The way they had been running the ball, I believe, like you said, with Spencer Anderson, that package just straight ahead, nobody would have held you accountable. I wouldn't have sat here, and if Coach went for it and didn't get it, there's no way I can sit here and say Coach Tomlin made a bad decision. So I'm all for we should have went for it in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's easy. It's, that's the easy thing to say. Everyone always points to Tomlin's infamous quote, I'm not going to live in our fears. Go get a yard. But I will offer the flip side of it though. They won the game, 1, and 2, it was 3rd and 1. It was 3rd and 1. Get it on 3rd and 1. They had the opportunity to get the yard and they didn't. They came up short. And Coach, and I think Coach Tomlin in that aspect, he just said, you know what? I'm going to bet on my defense to close this game out. Now, to what Wayne said, I would have appreciated much better. Try to pit him deep punting wise. I think we were on the 40 there when we punted, then we give the ball at the 20. So it's really only a 20-yard difference. Why not? Why just kick it in the end zone? Why not try to angle one in there? Maybe pin him inside the 10, which Corliss Waitman is more than capable of doing. He's a professional punter, and he's been excellent for the Steelers thus far. So, but yeah, you want to see him go for it, but they still won the game, and it was Coach Tomlin betting on his defense. And you know what? It was the right bet because they closed the game out. They almost had an interception there at the end. They get the sack that caused the intentional grounding, and then they almost had the interception there on the last play. So they won the game. And then even going back to the previous 4th down decision where they did decide to go for it, maybe Coach was basing it off that. Is that, hey, listen, I let you guys win that one. You wanted to go for it on 4th and goal from the 3. You didn't punch it in, and it led to that big play for the Vikings and obviously made it a 3-point game. So maybe he's like, you know what, I'm going to win this one. I'm betting on the defense to close it out. And that's what they did. But to everybody's point, of course I want to see him win the game. That's what you love to see. Like, don't give him the ball again. Just run it, especially how successful they were running the football today. And I think, and let me fire up the Steelers fans even more. If they would have went for it, I would love to see them do that Connor Hayward package again too with the tush push. Let Connor Hayward go win the football game if they were to go for it on 4th. Man,
I'm just happy the Steelers won. We could gripe about every single detail of this game. I'm just happy the Steelers are 3-1 with the 24-21 victory. This has been a fun show so far. When we come back, we're talking winners and losers. Not a ton of losers, I'd say, from the Steelers side of the football in this game today. But feel free to comment who you think was the best performing Steeler and who you think maybe still needs to step up their game. That'll be next right here on the Steelers Squad Show. But first, This show is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold new flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with zero sugar and zero crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it most. Honestly, I love how fast it kicks in that it's sugar-free, so I don't have to worry about crashing later. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine, y'all. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy. 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. This episode is also brought to you by Rugiet. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence, pure confidence. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rugiet's Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is simple. Connect with the board-certified doctor 100% online, and if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly right to your front door. So, are you ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Rugiet, that's RUGIET.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. Speaking of going long, the Steelers went long to DK Metcalf, 80-yard touchdown. That was special, and it was special to see DK Metcalf go long quite a bit today. He had 135 total receiving yards coming into this game this morning here in the States. Today, he leaves with 126 receiving yards on 5 catches, that 1 touchdown. He was tremendous. He is my winner of the game. I was really impressed with DK Metcalf. Wayne, I'll send it over to you. Who did you think for the Steelers really stepped up their game today and made such an impact that they were able to hold on and beat the Vikings?
Peyton Wilson is the guy that, if I was going to give my first game ball, I know DK did big things. I know Kenneth Gainwell did great things. But Peyton Wilson, being in and out the lineup and sharing time with Cole Holcomb, a lot of expectations. He actually showed you why this organization brought him in, drafted him. You see why they have high expectations, because this is what they want to see. And him running down Addison saved the touchdown. And it saved a whole different circumstance. You never know how it would have gone. So I'm not one of those people, if he didn't do that, we wouldn't. No, I'm just saying he did take another basically minute off the clock of operation, which is huge when you're talking about having to get the ball. He wasted time. They still got in, but he made them waste time. But that exemplified, when I be talking about Steeler football, that effort to run down a receiver and not give up. You know, most guys, they see a speedy receiver, they give you a good strong 10, maybe 15 yards, and then they start putting up, I'm not going to catch him. But he was very confident that he could get somewhere around that last heel of that foot and slap it, and that's what he did, and saved a touchdown. I think he had about 13 total tackles, playing downhill. He joined his man Patrick Queen, who had been picking up the pace here the last 2 or 3 games anyway, playing on the other side of the ball, making tackles. But Peyton Wilson is a guy that I would definitely have given a game ball to for his effort today.
Yeah, Peyton Wilson leading the way, 13 total, 8 solo, 2 tackles for loss. He was all over the field today, Wayne, and that's great insight on that touchdown save. I totally blanked on that for a minute. You brought it back up, and I appreciate you doing that. Ben, who was your winner today from the Steelers team?
It has to be Keanu Benton for me, man. He's had a rough 3 weeks getting pushed around in the run game. The Steelers as a whole hold the Vikings to 70 rushing yards. He has a sack and a half. 3 QB hits, tied for the team most with Nick Herbig, and a tackle for a loss. I mean, him and TJ Watt were kind of a 1-2 tandem there. Some Badger boys were getting in the backfield there, getting it done. So I just love to see that for him, because, and granted, it was against the Minnesota offensive line that was a little beat down. I know they've had some injuries, but it doesn't matter, man. It's professional football. They're replaced by professionals. And if that could get his confidence going, he needed a good game. And quite frankly, we got a great game from him. And so it was awesome to see, especially get in the backfield, get some QB hits, and really be a menace there in the middle. That was just awesome to see, and just a double win, because not only did he play great, but he needed to, because it's been a rough first 3 weeks. So it's good to see him get some confidence, and he's going to be a big part of that defensive line moving forward. And I think it helps everybody that he's playing well. So that was just awesome to see. It definitely him, given the circumstances, and just his great play.
A reminder, we'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Who did you think was the Steelers' best winner, top performer here today against the Vikings? We'll get to the losers in a minute. Chris Carter was enjoying the game in Ireland, so he's not on the show today. Eddie Garcia, a Sunday off as well. Just a reminder to check out Chris Carter's daily Locked On Steelers podcast Monday through Friday. I'm sure he's going to have a lot to talk about for the next 2 weeks. The Steelers get a bye, rest up. Hopefully everyone comes back healthy for that game on October 12th. We have someone saying, Steven saying, Kenneth Gainwell had himself a game. And yeah, we talked a lot about him early. Let's talk more about Gainwell. How do the Steelers go, or where do the Steelers go from here in that running game? Caleb Johnson got a couple touches, but Gainwell, in a room that hasn't really been performing, Wayne, you said it earlier, he's making this a tougher decision on who to start at that position.
Yeah, a lot of careers have been made when that window opens. A lot of guys, especially, unless you're making that $40, $50 million salary, a lot of guys have come back and their job is not available, or their reps are lower. And to me, that's what a true professional and Gainwell type player, you hoping that's how he's always in that mindset, that I'm going to show you why I should be the starter. That's how your backup running back should always be. He has to have that mindset. And this day was his. I mean, as we talk about, close to 100 yards rushing, another 60, 70 yards, I think, in the pass game. 40 yards in the pass game, but had like 6 receptions and really was able to make some plays and set the tempo too. You could tell, and when I talk about strain, it's that little effort that you see at the end, that little, you got me, but I'm going to try to get 6 more inches. That kind of mindset, and I saw that with him, and it really just reminded me of those kind of guys you put in the game, and okay, I'm going to show you why I should be in here. There's no hard feelings, Jaylen Warren, but I feel like I need more carries. I need more touches during a game. And he really set the pace, being able to run the ball. 2 scores, 2 touchdowns as well. So, what we need, and you just like you need 2 quarterbacks, you need 2 running backs. Now, you really needed like 4. You need, but you got to have 2 because at any moment, one of them has to take that main role. So hats off to the scouting department for, and the GM for bringing them in.
My condolences to anyone on the West Coast who probably was asleep when the news came that Jaylen Warren wouldn't be starting at running back. Probably a lot of fantasy football players frustrated that they didn't wake up in time to see that news. And my guess is Kenneth Gainwell was not a high percentage starter this week. So, hey, your loss. Ben, speaking of losses, maybe who was a guy for the Steelers today that still needs to pick it up a little bit? I didn't really see a ton of it, but anyone that stood out like, hey, like I still want to see more.
Yeah, Pat Freiermuth, man. He whiffed on a block on that field goal that led to the block.
Fellow Nittany Lion. I was like, I looked at the replay. I'm like, man, come on, he's gonna look at the film there and be like, that's my bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he'll hear to the film room, but a little non-existent in the offense as well. Now that might be scheme, that might be by design and whatnot, but no real big time pass plays for me. Darnell Washington had a couple catches today, and it was good to see them get him the ball in space. You saw him, how much of a load he is to tackle. More of that, please, because like Wayne was saying with Gainwell about it, he was he was doing a good job of that. Well, you got me, but I'm still going to get one or two more. You saw that a few times on Mount Washington's one or two catches. They're like, hey, kind of got you, but good luck bringing him to the ground where he's able to churn out an extra yard or two, which is huge, which is always big. It's a game of inches, but probably Pat Freiermuth, just a tough look on specialty. Just looked lazy. That was the thing. I think it just looked lazy. Now, granted, credit to Isaiah Rodgers. It was a good swim move. I know they were talking about that on the broadcast about how you're seeing it more and whatnot. Well, if you're seeing it more, it's on tape. And if it's on tape, you got to be prepared for it. You can't just go out there and lazily not do your job on a 30-yard field goal from your all-world kicker. You got to lay the block down, and they paid for it because it was a 6-point swing. You're looking at a potential 17-3 lead there, and now all of a sudden it's 14-6 going into the locker room because they blocked the kick and then they turned it into 3 points. So it's probably him. I'd like to see him involved more in the offense. Like I said, it might be a scheme thing, so things that we may not know. But I just want to fire Muth of old, those big plays over the middle, maybe a 12, 15-yarder, and getting the crowd going with the Muth chants and everything. I think that's a good upbeat thing for the offense. Not that they lack that today, but obviously, probably Pat. That was a tough look.
No pat on the back for Freiermuth today, but Stephen A. patting on back for Ben Bobick, spitting facts right now. That's what we love. That's why we bring Ben in here. Come on. Wayne, do you agree? I mean, we talked heavily about how the tight end room was going to be a big X factor for the Steelers off, and it kind of seems like we're still – I mean, you had Darnell Washington. I mean, it just doesn't seem like things have matriculated the way that we expected it to offensively. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, with Freiermuth, at one point I thought he was inactive.
Like on the field?
I didn't see him. He wasn't even the targeter. I didn't see him make a play today. When they spent Spencer Anderson out there, I was like, it's Freiermuth. And then eventually I did see him out there playing, blocking. But the tight end, I think we maybe have to relax our expectations a little bit. It seemed like the scheme, and I think a lot of our excitement was Arthur Smith's scheme seemed to always feed the tight end. And right now it's more of a package where, it's 3 or 4 of them out there. Good to see Connor Haywood in the mix again, even as a blocker, but really not throwing the ball to their direction, especially anything deep or down the field. Everything is some kind of little 2 or 3 yard out for them. But my loser is still trying to figure out where is that third receiver. Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek, once again, no catches in the game. Now, I don't know if you're just not getting open. It did seem early on that Aaron Rodgers had decided that he was going to feed DK Metcalf today. And sometimes that's how it works. DK giving him that little tap on the butt as he goes out of the huddle. And it's come my way. Trust me, it happens a lot. Don't worry about them guys. Come over here.
Hey, I mean, we could have 6 receivers, and if DK's tapping that, you better get him the football because it was working. It was those quick little slants. That dude is 6'4", 230. He is not normally sized for your typical receiver. Anyway, continue.
And I say that basically based on depth. We did see Calvin Austin leave. They had his helmet, so I was thinking maybe concussion. He walked off. We'll see how healthy he is. He only had 2 catches in the game. But for those guys to once again have a complete game, no reception, it concerns me from depth and sometimes where is that third guy? When they start rolling the coverage to double DK, how do we get them out of that package? And it has to come from another receiver.
Yes, it does. Well, I guess luckily the Steelers, they have the bye week coming up. So they fly home to Pittsburgh, land safely into that multi-million-dollar renovation that they're doing at the Pittsburgh International Airport. They took out the McDonald's. I can't get my McGriddle anymore when I walk through. It is a Shake Shack, which is maybe a little bit of an upgrade, but what's tried and true, what you experienced as a kid, that's how you remember the airport. So anyway, land safely. go through the construction site or what have you, and hopefully they finish that soon. Go ahead.
Ask, any of you have a connection for the green terrible towel? I mean, I heard they had a green terrible towel. I didn't know if you two might have, maybe hit Chris up and see if he got an extra one.
Yeah, I'd say if you're asking us for a connection, I feel like you would probably have a closer connection. I don't think the Steelers as a team are connecting. I think it's a straight shot. Maybe it's not. I don't actually know the information there, but that would be awesome. Those green terrible towels. Classic yellow though. Maybe the one with the Irish flag is nice, but the green one, it's what are we going to do with that? Like hang it up as a souvenir, I guess. But it is the wrong color, Wayne. I know you've got that Irish blood in you though. So
Wayne does.
I know you're probably doing an Irish jig right now to try and get your hands on it. Hey, we'll get our hands on talking about where the Steelers go from here. 3-1, they're sitting pretty. We'll have to see how the AFC North does here this weekend, but this is pretty ideal. All things considered, this is a good Sunday for Steelers Nation. We'll be right back here on the Steelers Squad Show. But first, this episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. It's been here. It's week 4, and FanDuel continues to have an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I really love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football that much more exciting when you've got a little something extra riding on the action. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today to get started. Final 15 here on the Locked On Steelers Squad Show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. A nice little Sunday morning, little pancakes, little eggs. I like my bacon burnt, and it was burnt here this morning as the Steelers were burning the Vikings for most of the game. The last 7 minutes, clock management, a little bit interesting. He's Wayne Gandy, Ben Bobick. I'm Tyler Feldman. So glad you're all with us here this afternoon, this morning, wherever you're watching from. All right, guys, so this is kind of coming at a good time, Wayne, for these Steelers to rest up.
Yeah, we talked about Calvin Austin leaving. We saw Darius Slay leave for a period. He's been banged up and playing through different injuries over there. And then we saw Jalen Ramsey as well. I don't know if it was a hamstring. We saw him fake when he did try to score. But, in our secondary.
Timeout.
Karma.
Can we talk about that celebration? I'm glad you brought that up, Wayne, because I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And then he starts dancing. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah,
like you mother. We've got too many injuries going on here for you to be doing that.
Yeah, when he did it, I was scared too. Like, not this early.
And then it didn't count.
Yeah,
that didn't even count.
And then the karma when he pops the tire there in the second half. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, so it was a great week to get our secondary. Hopefully, when we come back, Joey Porter Jr. will be mixed back in there. Jabril Peppers will be able to add that depth, and get some guys, see where Highsmith is as well. And then you come out with 2 divisional opponents. And I'm glad about that from the basis of focus. A lot of times when you're playing those teams that you don't have that familiarity with, you try to look at their record, you take them for a slight. I think that Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, playing Cleveland and then playing Cincinnati, will be a little more focused because they're games they want to win. It's bigger than just, it's personal. You love the rivalries. So at home, and then you'll start getting into the meat of some heavyweights there in the next 3 or 4 games after that. So I think the bye, even though I don't like these early buys, you really like a bye around week 7, 8, if you can get it. But this one seems to come at a good time for the Steelers.
Cincinnati plays Denver on Monday night. This afternoon, it's the Ravens and the Chiefs. That should be a good one. 2 1-2 teams, surprisingly. And the Browns right now are losing 10-7 to the Detroit Lions. So after that bye week, Ben, it's a home game against the Browns, and you get going on those divisional matchups. And to Wayne's point, yeah, those are games that you sure as heck want to win. And the way in which this division's looking right now, let's rest up, let's get healthy, let's stay healthy through that stretch and take care of the division, because right now I'm trying not to get too excited because, there's still a lot of season left, but the Steelers are in the driver's seat.
Yeah, they are, and that those two games out of the bye are huge because it's a twofer. And I was circling that Thursday night game at the beginning of the season, like, oh, that's a loss. That's a loss because it's a short week. We're in the kitchen, as Coach T would say, when it's AFC North football, and it's a short week after even if it's the Browns, you got to go at Cincinnati. Joe Burrow typically plays well against the Steelers, but Joe Burrow out. Now the Steelers have a really opportunity here to double up, not to overlook either team. When it's AFC North football, anything could happen. But man, it's a good bye week to kind of reset, especially that, like Wayne was saying, man, our secondary is so banged up. I expect Joey Porter Jr. to be back out of the bye. I'm happy we were able to get through this. I know he was limited a bit in practice this week, so he was close to playing. And now hindsight 2020, I'm happy they held him out because we still got the win, and now he gets an extra week to rest up. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey, you hope he's okay. But it was great to see Deshaun Elliott back today. Boy, did he make an impact. He is really, really good for that Steelers defense, and I think it shows you what it could be with him on the field once we get all the pieces rolling. So that's where but I'm with Wayne, though. I'm not the biggest fan of the early bye, but in this case, you play the season out. We enter at 3-1, a little banged up in the secondary. It comes as sort of a blessing in disguise, if you will, because we're able to get rested up because we're getting deep into it, out of it with the Browns coming to town, 1 o'clock. I hate to label the must wins, but they're not a good football team. It's at home. You have to beat them. And then you have a real opportunity, if you do, to go on the road and double up in the division, get to 5-1 and beat a Cincinnati team on the road in the division as well. So just all in all, a really good time for the bye week to everybody hit the reset button and hopefully come out hot at home against Cleveland.
Wayne, I want to ask you about prepping for not just the bye week, but yeah, you have that home game the following Sunday against Cleveland and then that Thursday at Cincinnati. So as a football organization in the NFL, how would you be prepping? Would you be prepping for the Bengals and the Browns? Or are you strictly on Browns? What do you see as a process to best attack a short week after a bye? Because you got a lot of time. You don't want to wait till the last minute. How do you utilize that time to the best of your ability so that you're best prepared for both those games?
Well, this week coming up, you kind of introduce when you do based on how much time coach gives them off. With it being an early bye, you might get less time than you would with a late one. So this week, you introduce both teams a little. We're talking about pro ball, so there's some similarities between each team, but you introduce both. So that when you do get to the Cleveland week, we can do all Cleveland, and you just hold that because it's week to week. And I hate Thursday night football. I don't think enough people talk about that's, we talk about helmets and pads, and you can't chop block and you can't horse collar. Well,
that Harmon penalty today.
Yeah. How about trying to play a game again in 72 hours?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that. So, but to answer your question, Tyler, you introduce both this week. And then some days you might have a Browns day and then you have a Bengals day just to get it in your mind. And that's why I said what's good is that it's a divisional opponent. So other than the guys that you might have brought in there that's new, these guys already know the personnel who they're going to face.
I am praying to the heavens. I am not taking this lightly. I'm not saying trap games for the Steelers against the Browns and Bengals, but can we just lock in? I don't want that mentality that this Browns team isn't that good. They aren't. I don't care. Mm-hmm. Treat that team like you treated this Minnesota team. And then, okay, Joe Burrow, he's not going to be with – that should be an automatic win. But I don't want that mindset to creep in to say, you know what? We'll get to 5-1 without actually having to lock in. I need these Steelers to really, really lock in, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy for us to sit back and be like, okay, it's an opportunity, but they have the opportunity there to lock in and really take care of business here these next 2 games. And another thing to note with Cleveland too, you mentioned them not being a good team. They got to go to London next week. They play Minnesota in London next week, and then they come back from London to go to Pittsburgh. That might be a little funky there for them, at least when it comes to the time difference, because they don't have a bye off in between like we do here to reset and get back on Eastern time, if you will. I mean, that's funky for them. I mean, Minnesota's hanging out in Europe all week. I mean, they got to play Cleveland and London next week. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well. It's one of those situations where it feels like everything sets up for the Steelers to really stack some dubs here, right? Coming off a bye, Cleveland's playing in London, then you go on a short week, but you're playing a Bengals team who has a backup quarterback and a terrible defense. You have to think about that with Cincy. That's where I started to buy in on the Steelers last year when they lit up Cincinnati and this offense might actually be good. We all know what happened afterwards. I got. But here's the thing, man. You got to. That's the thing. It's a mentality thing, I feel like, where if not, obviously you can't cakewalk it, but it's like, hey, we have an opportunity. Nothing's good enough. Keep pushing each other. Keep pushing. Don't look at the scoreboard. Head down. Tunnel vision. Keep it focused. Keep playing. Keep pushing, and then let the scoreboard take care of itself. Which if the team that shows up today, shows up the next couple of weeks, I feel pretty good in those games.
Rogers fan number 12, one of our favorite commenters here on the Squad Show, says, "Who will the Browns quarterback? Who will be the Browns quarterback? Probably Tim Couch."
yeah, there's a good one. You could just start Kelly Holcomb. Maybe might come back out. Although he lit up the Steelers in that wild card game. We really want to get into it.
I don't want to knock on the Browns because we'll knock on the Browns here, and then they'll come back and pull out some sort of crazy win over the Vikings, and then win another one against the Steelers somehow. Any final thoughts, guys, as we wrap up the Steelers Squad Show? Beating the Vikings 24-21 here today in Dublin, Ireland, Croke Park. It was an awesome scene.
I think that Steelers fans should, as I said, embrace the team that they have, be a little joyous that you went through. As we talk about quarters, that's how we talk about winning. Let's win this quarter of games. Now there's 17 now, so you added 4 quarters in one, but you're 3-1. And then you look at the next blocks of games, which is the Browns, Bengals, Packers, and Colts. But you take it and you try to create that again. And 2 more victories, as we said, 2 winnable games. Again, when I say winnable, that don't mean you're going to win them. That means that the teams that you're playing, you're equal or better in talent. You're not going to get any bonus points for beating them, because there are teams that you are capable of beating. Next thing you know, you're 5-1, and Green Bay is coming to your house, and Aaron Rodgers is in there leaving $1,000 on everybody's stool. Let's go. That kind of game. It's one of those. Let's go. I mean, kind of game. So I'm excited that they went over and traveled, big crowd, big expectations, and showed up as the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wayne, whoever left $1,000 on your stool?
Oh, it's different gifts, to get you motivated to take on different teams that you play.
Listen, someone's got to leave a green terrible towel on Wayne's stool. We had a Wednesday. Can't get him known. Listen, man, I'm pumped up. Like, if you're a Steelers, obviously it's easy to pinpoint the end of that game and what have you. But listen, that's a good win. Minnesota is a good football team. They were 14-3 a season ago. They're well coached. It's a good football team. That's a good defense, and the Steelers dominated much of that game. Feel good about it, as you should. The Steelers are 3-1. They beat a good football team today in Ireland, and shout out to the Rooney family. It's special for everybody in the Steelers organization to see them win in Ireland. We couldn't lose in Ireland, right? You can't. The Steelers can't go down there, so it was a different sort of home game feel, if you will, a little bit of maybe a home game pride, maybe to win that football game. But man, it's awesome, and I'll tell you what, to a lot of the Steelers fans that I'm sure are taking time out of their day, that are enjoying Dublin right now and watching us, because I'm sure it's a bunch of them. I envy you right now, because it's about 7:00 after a Steelers win in Ireland. Enjoy yourself responsibly, and I envy you. Go Steelers, man.
Enjoy a Guinness. I do want to let everyone know that I did pick the Vikings to win this game Wednesday.
Same.
So maybe I'll start picking the other team. And maybe that's what will work for this show and for the Steelers moving forward. A reminder, you can always listen to the audio of this show wherever you get your podcast, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. You can download it. I'll be uploading it after we wrap up here. But also throw us a like, subscribe. That helps us out. That'll do it, though, for this Week 4 Ireland edition of the Locked On Steelers Squad Show. The Steelers take down the Vikings 24-21. They are now 3-1. They will enjoy a bye week next week before taking on the Browns and then the Bengals the following Thursday. For Wayne Gandy and Ben Bobick, I'm Tyler Feldman saying good day, and here we go. We'll see you Wednesday night for some more Steelers Squad Show.